Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Raw is Ginger.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Raw is Ginger. And as you can see, I am joined by our resident ginger, Andrew Durning. How
Yep,
are you?
I'm not bad. I'm not bad. Don't let it fool you saying that it's John Toner on here. Like, it is me. But, Toner was going to be on the night, but other commitments have caught him. So he's still graciously letting me sub in for him because, well, I don't have internet where I currently am. But it's good because I've got so much to talk about in terms of wrestling and things like that I've missed so much. So we thought, why don't we do like just a raw discussions panel, and we'll talk about some of the things that have been happening in the world of professional wrestling in the last few weeks and get opinions on it. So I think the key thing we need to start with, which is the most recent one, is the WWE releases. There's been quite a
Yes.
few on there that were quite shocking as to who was released. Some that I was surprised were even still on the payroll,
Yep.
and ones that I was like, why are they still on the payroll? So that got me thinking, like, do you think that WWE have made the right calls here? Who would you have chose to cut? What We already asked Toner before we came on air, and he's obviously said Rey Mysterio. So I think that's a given. What But what did you make of the drafts? The cuts from the roster since this TKO merger's happened.
Some of them I could see coming for a long time.
Hmm.
Matt Riddle, as soon as I heard that this merger was happening, he wasn't going to survive because everybody at UFC and TKO hate his guts. They
Hmm.
can't stand him, especially Dana White, who is very vocal about hating his guts and has been very vocal about him being sacked.
Hmm.
He's very happy about it. And that one didn't surprise me. And I could see him getting cut from a while ago. The reason he didn't get cut in the last stuff is because Randy Orton was still there. They were the tag team champions.
Hmm.
And RK Bro was over. They couldn't get rid of him. Orton got injured. This merger happened. That's the reason they get him out.
Yeah, that's something like I was quite surprised to hear how many people hated Matt Riddle because there was so much outpouring of like support when he got cut. Whereas I was
Yes.
just going, why? I've not been a fan of him either. He's trying to be like RVD, but he's just got no credibility. So I was like, fair dues. When his name came up,
Yeah.
for being released, I was just like, well, that's fair dues. And a lot of the sources have been saying that he's had too many chances because I know
Yeah.
that like he's riled guys like Brock Lesnar up the wrong way.
He
Well,
has.
and if you rile up the beast incarnate, then you know you're in trouble.
There's not many people that are going to survive, especially when you're messing up somebody like Brock Lesnar and you don't have Randy Orton to sort of say, look, he was just that's what I was like when I was younger. Just give him a pass.
Mm,
I'll calm him down. But then when Randy wasn't there, he was going back to doing the same things.
yeah.
Because apparently when they tagged him with Randy, they're like, teach him how we work. Teach him how you were almost fired 17 times because of the shit you were doing.
Yep.
And you could see it. His in-ring work got a bit better, but then he just didn't take it on when he went solo and Randy was away.
Mm,
He just went back to doing what he was doing.
aye.
He couldn't learn any of the scripts that they were giving him because he was stoned out his box.
Then again, so was RVD. He still managed to do it.
But RVD was from a different background. I mean, he was brought up using that as pain medication
Mm,
because I mean his back was buggered from like the early 2000s to like last year. Being high was the only thing that kept him off of all the other drugs.
mm,
Because if he didn't have that, he would have been on painkillers, he'd be on this, he'd be on that, he wouldn't be able to work anywhere except the indies because they don't have any regulations for drugs. You come in, do two shows, go away.
mm,
Half of them that do the indies in America, it's just a drunken brawl. So it's
that's true.
like it could show up there. I mean, you've seen the state of Jake the Snake when he was at his worst doing these independent shows.
Mm,
high on crack. He would go in, do his thing, then walk out.
Yeah.
No regulation, but he couldn't get any jobs in like actual companies that were regulated. They would do the drug tests and stuff like that. And it's the same here. When Matt Riddle came back after he was injured a bit, he was there for 3 weeks, drug violation. He was off for 2 weeks for the suspension, came back, these cuts happened, he's gone. So he brought it on himself, really.
Mm.
So that one didn't surprise me.
For me, a guy like Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah, that one surprised me.
Yeah, I didn't like to see that. But I think when we discussed this in a previous episode, that he get royally shafted with the opportunities he should have had compared to what he got overall. And especially he was coming in like a good vein of form again.
Yeah.
It looked like there could have been potential for it, maybe getting the Hurt business back together, but that wasn't going to happen, and now he's gone. Do you think that's one that could bite him in the backside?
I think that could. I mean, any of the other companies out there could easily pick him up, put him in top tier matches, and he can just go.
That's true. What about Dolph Ziggler?
That one surprised me as well. I mean, if you think he's been there since 2007 or 8, I think, when it was the Spirit Squad.
Yeah.
He was in that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been there consistently since then. 2-time world champion, Intercontinental champion, United States champion, tag team champion, NXT champion. You could put him anywhere. Put him in matches with Seth Rollins. Practically 4-star matches, maybe even 5-star matches, because they two can work well together.
Yeah.
Put him in mid-card matches with Gunther. Put him with Sheamus. Put him with Drew McIntyre. Put him in tag teams with people. He's always consistently good, and they've just got rid of one of the people who could be used as an enhancement talent. Now all they've got really for enhancement talent is The Miz.
Do you think that's the reason, though? Do you think they're just trying to totally do a complete reset?
They might be, but if you look at, they've done all these cuts, and then they've went and just brought in Jade Cargill for AEW, and that's all over everywhere. So it's like, I mean, when she started in AEW, she was like the shit, apparently, but her in-ring work was terrible. For the first 6 months, she could not wrestle. Cody, Kenny Omega, and Dustin trained her up, and she went away for like 3 months, trained with them, came back, and you could see that she'd put in the work, which is why they put the title on her, and they kept her the champion for so long. Now they're bringing her into WWE. They're going to mid-carder, I think. They're just wanting to get AEW talent in to say, we can get your people. We get one of your top stars, and we've mid-carded her. Because think about the invasion.
Yeah.
Before that happened, before when WCW was still there, they were getting people in, and they were pushing them. They bought WCW. What happened? Mid-card for the majority of them. There was a handful that made it to the top, but the rest of them mid-carded. Even when they brought Sting in after all that time, he had like 2 matches, mid-carded.
That's something that I'm quite intrigued about as well. Like, how do people not seem to get, even by now, and with all the cases against them, that they think they can jump from a rival promotion and think they're going to make a splash? Because most of the time they don't. So it does, but other companies aren't as ruthless in that sense. So do you think that guys like Shelton Benjamin or Dolph Ziggler could make a jump to AEW?
They could easily go there and get a run with one of their titles. They could come in on their debut and get a run with the title because people know who they are. They'd obviously have a different name, but Shelton Benjamin wouldn't, because that's his name.
Yeah.
So he would come in as Shelton Benjamin. There's nothing WWE could do about that. He owns his name. Because Kurt Angle, when Shelton Benjamin came in, Kurt Angle's like, make sure they don't copyright your name, so that if you go to somewhere else, you've got your name. Which is why Kurt Angle could use his name in TNA and over in Japan and stuff like that when he worked there.
Yeah.
So Shelton Benjamin can do that. Dolph Ziggler will use his actual name, because that's when he came in, he was Kenny or something like that in the Spirit Squad, and then they gave him Dolph Ziggler. That's not his name.
Yeah.
So he could go and use his actual name, and then any money that makes that goes to him. So in a way, this could be good for those two to get back into title contention when clearly they should always be there because they've been consistently working for this long in the business and never had like a terrible, terrible match.
So anybody that you were surprised didn't get cut?
I was surprised that they brought Nia Jax back and then didn't cut her after she came in and injured Rhea Ripley. And it's like, why do you keep consistently bringing her back? And when they bring her back, the first day she's back in the ring, somebody gets injured. 6 times she's left and came back. 6 times on her initial comeback, somebody's injured.
Someone that I was actually quite surprised that didn't get let go was Drew McIntyre, because there's been so much around him, what potentially leaving, and then what rumor not being happy, not being settled, wanting to get involved in a major story, and want to be put in the title picture or whatever. What it seemed like it was a loaded gun for him. Like it could have been very easy to just pull the trigger and get him away, but they haven't.
It could have been, but I think the reason is they're doing this heel turn with him just now, and people are loving it. So that we'll need to see how it plays out. If in 6 months it's not went anywhere, then we can get rid of him again. Or until his contract's out at, I think it'll be WrestleMania again, because he re-signed just after WrestleMania, so it'll be until next WrestleMania.
Any other ones that you might have been surprised didn't get let go? Like guys like Sheamus or anything?
I think they're going to wait for Sheamus. I think they're going to try and put the Intercontinental title on him, give him a run with that, and then he can just go on his own accord, because he's been with them since 2008 or 9.
Yeah, something like that. 2009.
And so he's been there for a long time. Again, working consistently with them, being in top tier matches, being there when they don't have anybody to go against the champion at the time. Like when it was Roman and nobody liked it that it was Roman. But give the belt to Sheamus. So they gave Sheamus another, it was like 3 or 4 weeks, and then it was back on Roman or something. But it's like they had him there. It's like they look at that, it's like he's reliable, and also it's believable that Sheamus could come in and kick his arse. So they got rid of a lot of people that were consistently good, that could put on matches with the top tier guys to help enhance them, make them look fantastic. I mean, you look at matches with Dolph Ziggler, he sells like nothing else. You look at Shawn Michaels selling, Dolph Ziggler took that to a brand new level. He made anybody that he was in a match with look fantastic. Even if they lost the match, he still made them look good. That's what he was doing. That was his job. And with Drew, I think, like I said, they're going to keep him until this heel thing turns, see where that goes, and then they'll probably wait. Maybe they'll put the belt on Sheamus, then Drew and Sheamus will fight at WrestleMania, see how that goes, and then they can both go maybe.
So we'll talk about we've talked about all the ones that have been let go, talk about ones that could go AEW. We'll talk about now someone who has been on both sides, and both sides have told him to get to. And of course, that is none other than Chick Magnet Punk himself. I had no idea that was what it actually meant until I watched a wee documentary about him. Yep. And I was like, oh my God. If ever was a 2000s initials, it had to be that.
Yeah.
So he is now been kicked out of AEW.
Yeah.
What for, and Tony Khan like saying, that his life was threatened, and I'm sure there'll be more things that'll come out by the time this has come out.
Oh, definitely.
But do you think there's anywhere else that he can realistically go now? Do you think he's done?
I think he's most likely done. But if he does ever show up in the ring again, it'll either be in Impact, because they will bring people back who have like completely humped them over, like what he did to them. And they never closed the door completely on people. They closed the door completely on Jeff Jarrett. He's been back 6 times. If they bring Jeff Jarrett back, who started the company, didn't like where the company was going, sold the company, told them to F off, went away and made his other wrestling company, and then had to come back and merge his company with that company, and then left again because he didn't like what they were doing with that company, went back to WWE, came back to. It's like they will bring him back if they see that that could benefit them. And right now, if they did sign him, they would get a lot of fans for it. A lot of
Mm.
people would follow him there.
CM Punk is just like for me a massive flight risk now, complete flight risk.
Yeah.
Like, it's no longer a case of he's trying to shake up the establishment, which was what it was seen as when he first kind of started getting noticed. It's
Mm-hmm.
now he's just seen as a whiny bitch as much as it what does pain me because I liked as a wrestler CM Punk. I liked him. I thought he had a good bit of style. There was a bit of uniqueness about him. He had that kind of emergence of like the ruthless aggression and attitude era
Yeah.
where he could walk that line. We didn't know what was genuine and what wasn't. But I think
Yeah.
it was also maybe a lot of times he didn't know what was genuine and what wasn't coming out of his mouth until he said it.
Yeah.
But I think it just got to that point where he just did too much.
Yeah.
Like
And
I was surprised AEW took him back the second time. I think it was a case of like Khan invested so much in him, thought he needed to get something back from it.
yeah.
But then it's cause too much. Considering what the issue was about, allegedly, was Jack Perry, what saying, it was real glass, Crimea River, what, and then it all kicks off in the back.
Yeah.
What because Jake's saying he's trying to get some cheap heat. What Punk didn't see it that way. Fight kicks off. It just makes you wonder, like, who can he go and tell his side to now that he is not pissed off?
And
Realistically,
all
like the only person I can think of who's actually he's actually worked with and is still friends with is Kofi Kingston. And I just don't think that guy can get mad at anybody.
I don't think he can. And the thing is, Kofi's coming to the end of his career as well,
Mm,
because as time's going on, the injuries are mounting up.
mm,
I think he's going to have one more run when he comes back from injury this time,
mm.
and then he's going to call it quits because it's like similar injuries. His knee, his leg, his ankle. It's the same leg that he keeps injuring. So I think he's going to go soon.
Yeah.
Whether he stays with the company, like in a backstage role, or whether he just stays as like Xavier Woods' manager, because
Uh,
I can see Xavier Woods getting a push somewhere just now because it seems to be that they want every faction that there's ever been to hold the world title if one of them gets it.
true.
Kofi got it, Big E's had it. They're going to have to give it to Xavier because if you look at what the New Day's done, they started off as heels, but then that wasn't working, so they changed them up a bit. They were still heels, but they were like a comedy act.
Mm,
But people loved that,
yeah.
and then like, oh no, people love them, make them good guys. And the feud that they had with the Usos for like 6 years, that work between all of them was probably at that time boosting the tag team division. But now all of them are basically solo now. So I think they should push Xavier, give him a title run, then let him go and do what he wants after that. Whether
Mm.
that be just doing his online stuff. And the same with Kofi.
Well, we never know what'll happen with the remainder of the New Day. What
Yep,
they're like the only like tag team really that they haven't consistently tried to split.
that's right. Aye, for a long time, it was them and the Usos that they wouldn't split up.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was never the question of can they coexist. It was just they
They
exist.
do. They
That's
do.
them. So we're looking at obviously the kind of the main ones that we know like for CM Punk to go to like WWE, AEW, TNA. What about any other kind of other promotions? Like, do you think he would go New Japan? Do you think he would? I don't think Ring of Honor is an option.
No, no,
But,
not now that Tony Khan owns that as well.
yeah, but there is actually talks that Tony Khan is possibly going to buy New Japan Pro Wrestling as well.
Yeah, that's and
Do you
that's
do you think that's a power play move to stop maybe one of CM Punk's only avenues? Because it seems so coincidental that the one place that could realistically that still has enough exposure take CM Punk back to their fold, and he's going to go, no, I'll buy the company, then you can't work for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was like he get fired. 3 days later, Tony Khan's in talks with New Japan.
Mm.
It's like, I mean, it could just be a coincidence. He is trying to buy up a lot of wrestling companies. He's bought Ring of Honor.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking at buying New Japan. He was talking to Billy Corgan about the NWA,
Mm-hmm.
not buying them, but just going into partnership so that wrestlers from NWA can show up at
Yeah.
AEW or Ring of Honor to help promote all of them
Yep.
against WWE, who put all of these companies out of business in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
When Vince took over, he ruined the territories. And this is Tony Khan saying, let's bring back the territories. Ring of Honor, NWA, AEW, get some independence by them, which he's actually pumped money into. Some of like the bigger ones in Texas and Georgia and stuff, he's pumped money into them to get them up as well. So it's like he's trying to bring back.
Yeah, he's trying to bring out the older ways of the territories.
Yeah.
Which actually brings me to the third and final question for this little raw discussions. I don't know if a lot of wrestling fans will have watched this as well, like I did. Like I binged Wrestlers on Netflix. You haven't seen it, I highly recommend you do. 7-part series. Have you seen it yet, or is that on your to do list?
It's on my to watch list because, as you know, when you brought me into this insanity that is podcasting, and I thought, oh, superhero stuff, I've already watched all of that, and then I branched out to sci-fi and other medias as well, and it's like, I've got so much shit to watch.
Yeah,
and
that's why I always said pick a niche and run with it.
Exactly.
It's like I have Thomas the Tank Engine. I'm okay with that. Even though the eras I'm getting into now, I'm like, just shoot me.
But, yes, I know.
Mm-hmm,
I was there with you.
It's due. That's a coming soon one. But just after we'd recorded that, I thought, right, I've got nothing to do until the next day. Well, binge watch Wrestlers because it just came out, and I absolutely loved it. And one of the things I was quite interested about was how they said that OVW, which is what it's about, was the third biggest promotion in the wrestling industry. While I do know that OVW had their golden generation, the John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Dave Bautista, and Randy Orton, I wouldn't say that they are the third biggest promotion. Well, if you watch the series as well, there is one point where they send some of their wrestlers to AEW for tryouts.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the link comes in because, there was potential of they were basically kind of going to be using them as in dark matches, like for enhancement talent.
Yeah.
So I think they picked like 3 or 4, and then you find out one of them gets a call up to AEW. It brings me the question of if you had to pick, your kind of top 3 of what well-known professional wrestling, would OVW be in there? Because I personally don't think that's the case. I think it would be TNA that would jump to my mind.
It would be TNA that would jump in just because they had more money pumped into it. Whereas OVW was seen as a developmental for WWE for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was for like 1980 something till like well into the 2000s.
Yeah.
That they were developmental talent for WWF, WWE, and they would send guys there to do like the Saturday showdown and stuff like that. Have like guys coming in getting squashed with Earthquake. Have people just getting brutalized by Psycho Sid. Have Bam Bam Bigelow coming in and superplexing people out of the building. And that was just to get them into that big arena type from going to like the tiny wee hall that they've got in OVW. And it's like, it can go from this to this, and then you can go back to that. You need to have a good mentality. And with the trainers they have there, I mean, right now it's Al Snow that's running it. Fantastic wrestler, knows the business inside out, which is why OVW has lasted as long as it has. Because if it was somebody else, it wouldn't have done as well as it has, it is still one of the top ones in America right now. But if you're going worldwide, I think it's just top 10.
Hmm. That's something quite interesting there when you say that. Like they wouldn't have survived without Al Snow. Well, and I do agree with you in one sense. Well, but when you watch the documentary, you do realize that they were just scraping by and no more.
Yeah.
Well, and then two kind of guys that have got a bit of money behind them decide to invest in it. But while they know wrestling, they don't know the business of wrestling.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of conflict there, which is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't shy away from it.
Yeah.
And then during it, there's the possibility that Al Snow might have to wrestle in one of their events because they're
Mm-hmm.
thinner on the ground. There's this whole will he wrestle, will he won't wrestle thing. And it's bit so you see those points are built up like it's like the promo reels that you would have for
Yeah.
a pay-per-view match. It just gets you that kind of the goosebumps in your arm.
Yeah.
And I like that. And for the casual fans of wrestling, they'll watch maybe 10 minutes of the last episode because the last episode starts with them going to Ric Flair's supposed last match.
Yeah.
And you see
his last match as of recording.
yes, I always say with Ric Flair, it's allegedly.
Yeah.
It's allegedly his last match.
But
And
do you not think it's funny that
mm,
out of Evolution, he's the last one that had a match?
it's just that's just Ric Flair. He just does not give two flyings. But it was good because in the sense that you saw Mark Calaway, you saw Mick Foley, you saw DDP,
Yeah.
so loads of guys. Well, also that Al's coming up to and just like saying hello with. It's just very fleeting, but it's like we all know that I like my cameos and things. So that was like a cameo smorgasbord for wrestling fans. And
So
you could
you're just going to love Deadpool 3 then?
we'll see. We'll see if that ever gets made. But that brings me on to a little quick fire last one that's just popped into my head.
Okay.
And we're content creators, we're guys that are in the industry, but we're also not affected by the SAG-AFTRA strikes, which at the time of this recording look like they are finally coming to a conclusion. Thank goodness.
Yep.
But the thing that annoyed me about this, John Cena and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, they're not getting any gigs in the acting industry because of the strikes. They don't want to be seen as scaps, but they still got to work. So what do? Jump back over to WWE.
Yep.
While people like Dolph Ziggler and Shelton Benjamin, who have been loyal to the business, are getting cut. Do you think that is a massive slap in the face?
Personally, I think it is. Even without those strikes happening, John Cena and The Rock could have came back at any time because of who they are and what they've done for the business. But they're not active. They're not active wrestlers. Haven't been for a long time. These other guys that all get the cut, active weekly. Mm-hmm. Maybe not on the main shows, but they're doing all the other shows during the week that don't get recorded, the house shows that get played throughout America and also Canada. They don't usually do house shows out with country because it costs too much. So they keep it in America to cut costs. And they're saying that the reason that they've cut all these people is to cut costs. They've just merged the UFC and WWE, two of the highest grossing sports entertainment companies in history.
Yeah.
And they're saying they need to make cuts.
I know. And that's something that just doesn't sit well with me at all.
The last time they were doing
the fact they're doing this merger is because they've both got tons and tons of money. So they're merging to make tons and tons more money.
Yeah.
But they still have to make cuts to save money. It's exactly like what it was when it was the pandemic and WWE made all the cuts despite them making what was it, like $2 or $3 billion profit.
And the last time they were doing the cuts, just after they came out of lockdown, and then all that stuff came out about Vince having to pay off people, and then they had to do cuts. It's like, well, why are they doing cuts? He's not in the company anymore. Why is the company having to pay? Oh, so they're doing the cuts so they can keep the money to pay off these people.
And it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's completely ridiculous. And the way it was starting to look, see if that these strikes had carried on, I wouldn't have been surprised if Dave Bautista came out retirement.
I think he's done with wrestling. The only way he'll come back is for the Hall of Fame stuff.
Yeah, true.
Because he has had a Hall of Fame career, if you look at it. in the long run, he's he came in as part of Devon Dudley's
I was,
Leviathan.
he was Reverend Devon's muscle. Essentially, he's
Aye,
heavy. Well, after
aye,
he's like kind of his vampire-esque weird
aye.
stint at OVW.
I mean, I think it was good putting him with somebody like Devon who could train him in tag team stuff because they'd never done tag team in OVW. It was always single stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw that he could do that well, especially with the people there. It was Randy Orton, John Cena, Brock Lesnar. Him and Brock Lesnar had amazing matches in OVW.
Mm-hmm.
Then when he came to like, the big show, as it were, they put him with him and said, train him up in tag team stuff because you know what it's like. One day he'd show up, oh, we're doing a tag team match today, and he didn't know how to do tag team matches. So putting him with Devon, who is one of the most tag team specialists. I mean, you look at the Dudley Boys run as tag team throughout the history, throughout all the companies that they've been in,
Mm-hmm.
winning titles in every single company they've been with. That's a great person to put him with. Fair enough, the run didn't work very well, but he learned a lot, and then he ended up in Evolution, and that started his like fantastic run
Mm-hmm.
as a top tier guy just because of who he was with.
Yeah. Well, I also think that with Batista, there would be less chance from coming back because he didn't start out with the love of the business.
Yeah,
He just went in because he was like, right, there's a way I could make money here. I need
yeah.
to try and make money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, whereas, like, Brock had it in his literally had it in his DNA. Well, Cena was, well, that seemed to be like he seemed to just bleed wrestling.
Yeah,
There was nothing else. I'm not denying that they should have great acting careers out with. Fair dues, fair
yeah,
enough. And strikes sometimes are unprecedented. People go through slumps. But the whole point was the strikes were not affecting the bigger ones, like those guys. They're affecting the guys on the ground like us.
yeah,
Like if we were in the industry, we'd be the ones that would be getting totally screwed.
yeah.
Well,
Totally.
they don't need to make their money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've got other ventures and other capitals and other properties. Well, if it's like, especially with Cena, I felt, he does come back regularly.
Yeah,
Like he's at least back. He's back at least once a year. Like he still tries to contribute something. He's like he's good humanitarian, fair dues. Why
yeah,
he's still there. But when I heard that The Rock was coming, I was like, all
yeah,
right. The sole reason he's there is that because in terms of Rock years, his last few years have been crap.
yes,
He's invested in XFL. It's no coming back for him, but he knew that would be a hit.
yeah,
He's had to come with his tail between his legs to go back to Fast and Furious because that hasn't worked out. What the DC scenario completely and utterly. He tanked an entire franchise trying to make a power play.
yeah.
That is something that's a record no one would like to have, but at the same time, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
who can genuinely come in and say, I've trashed the franchise, apart from Vin Diesel, who has essentially trashed Fast and Furious.
yeah, but the difference was like it was his franchise to trash,
Yeah,
and also the fact of he's not done it in one movie. The Rockets came in and went to one franchise, one superhero franchise with one movie, made one decision, which was let's bring Henry Cavill back, and that destroyed it. No one else can claim that aside from him. He's had a couple of power plays that he's tried to make, and they've not worked out for him. So it's like he's crawling back to his safe space,
yeah.
which is the wrestling.
And the fact that he came out and he trashed somebody who they're trying to push.
That's one of the things I really don't like about these type of returns. Like
Aye,
it's not for any other reason than to benefit themselves. Cena maybe is more willing to give the rub. Rock is
yeah,
not.
yeah,
Rock is and it's openly been out. They're going to give the person that we are talking about a push. What fans have been wanting it. It's all happened, and then suddenly the Rocks came back and torched them.
yeah,
And we all know, and these guys will in particular know they've got the power and the clout that if they do one promo right, they will bury somebody. Prime
yeah,
example was Austin Theory.
yeah,
Well, as much as I loved Cena's promo, and I was one of the ones that was killing myself laughing watching it. Watched the full thing twice. What watched it the first time and was like, can't believe he did that. That's amazing. And then I rewatched it and went, they've actually destroyed that guy. It's like to the point where he would have to like probably have to go back and turn into a completely different character just to try and rebuild. And
it's also the fact that they took the belt off of Austin Theory to give it to Rey Mysterio, who doesn't need pushed. He's done his tenure.
You're talking about Rey Mysterio. I can feel in the corner of the room like a certain Mr. Toner is going to like turn redder and redder and redder with rage.
But I'm totally agreeing with Toner this time.
You are agreeing with him that
Yes.
they shouldn't have put the belt on Rey Mysterio
No.
when they were trying to build something with Austin Theory.
Exactly. They don't need to put the title on Rey Mysterio. He's done his time. He's had his Hall of Fame career. He's in the Hall of Fame. Get him out. Bring in new people. We don't need to see more of the same from 20 years ago. I mean, they're bringing in John Cena, The Rock, like you say as well. Bringing in all these guys who don't need to be there to trash on the talent that they're trying to push. That's not how it works. You bring in these people and then you get the talent you're trying to push to take them down.
Yep. It feels very Hulk Hogan after everybody saying that that they wouldn't want to be like that because of what they did to them.
Yeah.
It's an inevitable cycle. Like when you become a dad and you told your kids you don't know you're born. So on that note, I would say that's been a pretty good discussion.
Yeah.
Well, for a little kind of throwing together one, and mainly because I've missed talking about wrestling with anybody.
I know.
Because it gets very lonely. But yeah, so Kev, thank you so much for joining us for the Raw discussions as usual.
Yep, I'm always here.
Yep. And until next time, everybody, good night.
Yeah.